Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Right next to me is David Rexroad. Hey, David.
Hey, how's
He's
it
going
going?
to talk about the trials and tribulations from the police implementing something they call the green tongue rule, where they say your green tongue proves that you are intoxicated on cannabis. He's been a victim of that fallacy. In addition to his ongoing battle with Marfan syndrome, which is a rare disorder. He'll talk about the Marfan's Foundation. Right next to him, Mr. Eric Llewellyn is back to help us co-host. Hey, Eric. Welcome back. And in the wings, Mr. John Cornett is ready to play a couple songs, aren't you, John?
Yes.
We have a relatively short version of our Hemp News segment tonight, and though many people wonder exactly why, we are going to bring on the infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, our first story tonight is from Connecticut. Sales of alcoholic beverages declined following the enactment of medical marijuana access laws, according to a working paper authored by a team of researchers from the University of Connecticut and Georgia State University. The authors evaluated the relationship between medical marijuana laws and retail alcohol sales in more than 2,000 U.S. counties for the years 2006 to 2015. Alcohol sales trends in medical cannabis states were compared to sales trends in states where cannabis remained illegal. The researchers determined that counties located in medical cannabis jurisdictions, on average, experienced a reduction in monthly alcohol sales of 15%. The researchers concluded, "We find that marijuana and alcohol are strong substitutes. States legalizing medical marijuana use experienced significant decreases in the aggregate sale of alcohol, beer, and wine. Moreover, the effects are not short-lived, with significant reductions observed up to 24 months after the passage of the law." End quote. Consumer trend data from California reports that those with legal access to cannabis frequently reduce their alcohol intake. A 2016 analysis of beer sales in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington reported that retail sales collectively underperformed in the years following the enactment of adult-use marijuana regulations. The study, helping settle the marijuana and alcohol debate, evidence from scanner data, appears online at SSRN. That's SSRN. So we've been saying that, marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol, and we're seeing a dramatic reduction in that. So now we know why the alcohol companies have been funding the anti-marijuana programs for the past 20 years. That explains it all right there, doesn't it? Our next story is from St. Paul, Minnesota. State health regulators have decided to expand the state's medical cannabis program to include patients diagnosed with autism and sleep apnea. Minnesota advocates petitioned health officials to add the two new qualifications, as well as several other diagnoses, such as anxiety, that regulators ultimately rejected. Health officials also denied requests to expand the program to permit patients to access whole plant cannabis or edibles. Under the existing Minnesota law, qualified patients may only access cannabis-infused oils. Patients with autism or sleep apnea will be eligible to participate in the Minnesota program beginning July 1st, 2018. Out of Madison, Wisconsin, Republican Governor Scott Walker signed legislation into law to establish a state-sponsored pilot program to study the growth, cultivation, and marketing of industrial hemp. Members of the Wisconsin Assembly and Senate had unanimously approved the measure, Senate Bill 119, which defines cannabis with no more than 0.3% THC as industrial hemp. Calls on regulators to facilitate rules to permit selling, transferring, importing, exporting, and taking possession of industrial hemp. Under a 2014 federal law, states may license hemp cultivation as part of a university-sponsored pilot program. 32 universities in 19 states, including North Carolina, Kentucky, Maine, Oregon, Washington, Virginia, and many others, have participated in hemp cultivation projects this year, according to data compiled by the advocacy organization Vote Hemp. And that is the end of our hemp news segment tonight. Mr. John Cornett is ready to play us some music. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
I'm hanging in here. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good. This is a song I love very much. I just want to dedicate it to all the people who have just worked their petunias off, and I really hate to hear what's going on over there in California right now. We're with you guys, all of our love and support and prayers, and I guess I dedicate this song to you guys particularly. Soon as you're born, they make you feel small, giving you no time instead of it all, till the pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. They hurt you at home and then they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever and they despise the fool. You're so freaking crazy you can't follow their rules. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. When they've tortured and scared you for 20-odd years, and then they expect you to pick a career. You can barely function, you're so full of fear. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. Keep you doped on religion, sex, and TV. You think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still freaking peasants as far as I can see. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. There's room at the top, they're telling you still. As long as you learn how to smile as you kill. If you want to be like those folks on the hill. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. That's right. If you want to be a hero, just follow you. If you want to be a hero, just follow you.
Okay, Mr. John Cornette performs a great tune from the late, great John Lennon. Welcome to the show, David Rexroad, Eric Wallen, John Cornette, and you viewers. Boy, you guys are towering over me tonight. I'm not used to this. I've got to get risers or something, but I'm okay. Nah, it doesn't matter. Hey, we are taking your phone calls live tonight. It is Friday, the 8th of December. If you're watching us Friday, the 8th of December, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. David, you're on the show because you've had experience with you'd like to talk about a couple of things. You've been part of our family around here for a while, and you've talked about coming on the show to talk about two things for a long time. One is your experience with the green tongue theory and how the police have kind of come up whole cloth with this idea that having a green tongue means you're intoxicated on cannabis, though there's no scientific rationale behind that whatsoever. You've been a victim of that. You want to kind of describe how that first happened?
Yeah, that happened back in 2009. And when that happened to me, it was honestly the best thing that ever happened to me, because it gives me something to fight for. Because even though that it's medical here in Oregon, there's plenty of states that aren't even legal. Right. And there's plenty of officers that are out there that know better, that are still doing what they're doing to the people. And that's why I'm here today, to educate the people about what's happened to me. And why I'm so grateful that it happened to me of all people, because I'm a fighter and I'm here to fight to the end. And I would just love to be able to hear that it has been ruled unconstitutional, because it is.
So tell me how it happened. So you were driving down the road and what, you got pulled over?
Yes, I was driving down the road on a Friday night. And what had happened
in 2009.
In 2009, and at that time, of course, you know, I had a car that's just asking to get pulled over. It was a '78 Buick Riviera, and that's just my style. I'm old school. You know, I'm tall. I need to have a big car. So I was driving this boat. It was late at night, and I get pulled over by this officer. I give him my license, my papers for my registration, and my papers for my medication. And in doing so, even though I had no medicine on me, even though I wasn't high, just because I had my medical marijuana papers, I was a victim of the green tongue theory.
So they said you had a green tongue and then arrested you for DUI?
Yes, passed the sobriety test, even had 8 county officers that were there at my trial testifying on my behalf, saying Mr. Rexroad didn't smell like marijuana, Mr. Rexroad didn't have any marijuana on his person. And it still was something I was found guilty of. Okay,
was this a trial by a judge?
Yes, and it happens that same judge, after the trial was over, I looked at him and I told him, I hope that you get a DUI. And how funny things work, because he wound up getting one. And as far as justice goes, you know, I'm not rich, I'm disabled, I'm on Social Security. I can't afford an expensive attorney, so I was left with what I call a public pretender, because he really wasn't a public defender. Because when they mentioned the green tongue theory, I looked at him in disbelief, because I couldn't believe it.
So they brought this up in the hearing. The state police said that was your reason. And did they try to ask you to take a blood test or anything?
No blood test, nothing like that. That's how they would have found there was, you know, no cannabis in my system at the time. You know, with that happening to me, I'm just grateful that, you know, now I'm here today because I actually saw recently on Alaskan State Troopers a man that wound up getting a green tongue DUI. And it's still happening.
It's still happening, especially in Washington State. Washington State troopers and the Washington State Highway Patrol have been telling people in other states, based on this mythology, that having a green tongue. So let's hope they don't eat a Jolly Rancher or something as you're driving down the road, anything that might make your tongue green. There is a website that talks about a legal court challenge. Can you tell our audience anything about what this says? It's obviously kind of small text on a big screen.
Yeah, you've basically covered it there. If you want to do your research now, you're going to pop up a lot of stuff. When I first started, there was only a few things that I had seen from cops. And, you know, you just have to look up green tongue and then look up the videos, and you'll see a couple videos. And in those videos, that's where you'll see where they're actually framing people on film. and they're still getting away with this. And this is unconstitutional. Like he had just mentioned, you know, I could have had a green Jolly Rancher, but the irony of it all is I don't even like apple candy.
Sure. So we are taking your phone calls tonight. If you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-673-8579, and I am told a caller is standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello, my name's Ben, and I'm from Nebraska.
Hey, Ben. I went and testified in the Nebraska legislature in March before the Judiciary Committee. Nebraska is the only state in the union that just has one legislative body. It's unicameral legislature. All the other 49 states have a House and a Senate, just like the federal government. But in the 30s, Nebraska reduced it to a single unicameral instead of bicameral legislature. And so I went and testified in favor of a medical marijuana bill along with a Oregon doctor, Rachel Knox. And unfortunately, that bill didn't make it out of committee, or actually it made it out of committee, but it didn't pass the legislature. But since you said you were calling from Nebraska, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I was just calling in because I'm kind of curious about what kind of push there is and what the movements are for rescheduling marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, 3, 4, or even 5, and whether or not maybe the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 should maybe just be completely overturned because of the ridiculousness of scheduling marijuana as a Class 1 substance, a Schedule 1 substance. And I wanted to bring up the fact that in 3 years, it'll be 50 years since the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 was established and classifying marijuana as a Schedule 1 drug. And I think that it would be a damn shame if 50 years pass with marijuana being a Schedule 1 drug. And that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Well, of course, we agree with you. The idea that marijuana has no medical efficacy, which what that means, only drugs are supposed to be in Schedule 1 that have no medical use whatsoever. But in fact, cannabis is one of the oldest medicines. It is the oldest medicine, the oldest text known to human beings from China and in Sanskrit mention cannabis as a medicine. It's in the original pharmacopoeia. All the major pharmaceutical companies had cannabis-based medicines, but the U.S. government has been holding that marijuana has no medical use whatsoever and is such a dangerous drug that it must be withheld from people. And the real reason for that is why we have this flame right here. It's because this stuff can go right into any car and run your diesel engine. And that's also why we have our banner turned around here. We have been attacked. I have personally been attacked by an Israeli-Canadian petrochemical company called Adira Energy that, based on lies, fraud, and deceit, have presented fraudulent documents to the court to take over my business, helping tens of thousands of people across the country get medical marijuana permits in their state, from Michigan to Hawaii. And so it's really because of the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches that made marijuana illegal. And it's really about fuel, fiber, and medicine. They don't want to compete with something that works better and is cheaper. They want to sell us their dangerous poisons. And that's what it's about. All right. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. And we do have a studio audience here. If you'd like to come down for our live shows on Friday nights, you can come down. There's a studio audience, and a microphone is off camera, so you can ask a question. And so Judy is at the microphone, ready to ask a question or make a statement. Go right ahead, Judy.
Yeah, and you're invisible, so you don't even have to look good on camera to ask the question. David, anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's nice to see you tonight. David, thank you for bringing this to the forefront again. This green thumb DUI, I've never really wrapped my mind around it, even though I've heard about it over and over and over and over again. And one thing that of our rights that we have lost, that is the right to keep our own property. And I wondered, in this process, did you go through any property forfeiture? Undoubtedly, it must have cost you money, just to deal with the whole issue, even if it was a public defender, in quotes. But at any rate, I wondered about that. Did you have any fight with that over property forfeiture?
No property forfeiture, because I'm actually disabled and I'm on Section 8, so I'm not a homeowner. But thank you so much for asking that question, because there had to be some way that I came up with the money, and it actually helped me fight for my Social Security. And once I got it, that first check I got, that was to pay off for my DUI. And I paid that off, and getting my license back.
How much did that cost?
That cost me a couple $1,000s. It wasn't the full $10,000, but it was still a couple thousand. It was still too much for someone with no income.
Right.
Assets.
What?
Maybe taking your assets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you had to pay some huge fine, and that's a shame.
Yes.
Now another thing is you had a medical marijuana recommendation for what's known as Marfan syndrome, and that's a very rare condition. Most people haven't heard of it. I remember when I first met you, you mentioned that, and I think I told you that I knew that Abraham Lincoln was a sufferer of Marfan syndrome.
Yes, and the thing about Abraham Lincoln was he was assassinated, so he didn't actually die as a result of Marfan's, and that's why I'm here today to speak on it. Because it is my purpose to create an awareness for this condition. And I'm extremely grateful for the Marfan Foundation for hearing me out this morning when I spoke to them about being their spokesperson. I'm not their spokesperson yet, but as of now, I'm just a person with Marfan's who cares, who's speaking about the benefits of being a medical marijuana patient back in the late 90s. And ever since then, my life has been great because I've been living with no worries. When you do no wrong, you have no worries.
All right. So tell us about Marfan's. It's a condition that causes, most people are tall and lanky like you are, and it causes joint discomfort and degeneration, doesn't it? What other things does it cause? I know we have a little image from the Marfan Foundation. Maybe we can pop that up there and show that. I know you've got a printout of it here. Let's see if they can do that in the studio. But go ahead and tell us more about Marfan syndrome.
Okay, well, the main thing about Marfan's that the people need to know is that it's a connective tissue disorder, and we're unhealthy giants. Okay, I had what's called a pectus excavatum. Now, what that is it's a concave chest. It was so severely concave.
There's that image. Where did that come from?
This actually came from the internet, and this is just one of those things. If you were to Google marijuana and Marfan syndrome, this will pop up to show you that they've been doing some studies.
A lot of other people who find relief with Marfan and cannabis. So it's like 1 out of 20,000 people has this condition. 1
out of 20,000. It's extremely rare.
You and honest Abe Lincoln.
That's right. And the origins go as far back as Akhenaten, King Tut's father. And as far as this that we see on the screen right now, I'm going to go ahead and read that center for you guys out in the studio audience. Cannabinoids alleviate pain in joints, bones, and muscles. Cannabinoids ease osteoarthritis. Cannabinoids reduce ocular eye stress. Cannabinoids help with transmission problems. Cannabinoids help with painful scoliosis. Cannabinoids are antibacterial. Now, as far as how I consume, I used to smoke it, and for the longest time, Paul had advised me to vaporize it. I just couldn't personally afford a Volcano. Those things are expensive.
They are. They're $500 to $700.
But I finally invested in one because I'm worth it, and so are you. So I suggest to you.
Your lungs are worth it. That's what I tell people.
Yes. So
the thing is, one of them lasts for years. I've got one Volcano that's worked for 15 years now.
And as far as using the Volcano, that's a white smoke without carcinogens you can hold in as long as you want. It's actually the healthy high.
Yeah, it's not really smoke. It's 100% cannabinoid vapor, kind of like steam off the flowers. All the resin turns into a smokeless vapor.
Yes, and not only that, it's one of the best ways to to still consume cannabis, because I myself used to smoke out of a beaker bong, and I would put ice in it. I'd have it clean, and I would light the flower with a crystal rod. And that, to me, is what I would call a glass match. And because of that hot heat and because of smoking that way so long, I've done some damage. And I'm here to speak about that damage because, you know, I'm not a doctor, but I am here to tell you to please take care of yourself out there. You know, if you're going to be smoking out of a bong, make sure that water's clean. If you have a beaker bong, put some ice in it. Do that for yourself. That's all I'm suggesting, because I didn't even get high before this show, because if I smoke a joint, I'm looking at losing my voice at this point. So that's why I suggest you guys go with the Volcano, go with the vaporizer pen. That's the way to do it.
We have a caller who's standing by. Let's go ahead and take that call. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Are you
talk?
Yes, you can talk.
Thank you for having me. Oh, thank you. Talking about the green tongue law, I feel like I was unlawfully search and seizure. I've been watching for the last couple months, and the guy to your left, the far left there, he spoke about it before, and so I want to ask it to all of you, but I want to ask it to him mostly. Why does it look like you're always sitting on a big black dildo?
Oh, we've got a rude guy there. I don't know why we let that guy get through, but somehow he has jumped through there and thinks he's funny. Well, you're not funny, buddy. But anyway, we have a video. Jorge Cervantes has created a number of videos from his website, and that is marijuanagrowing.com. And we're going to run a video, and we'll be back just after the video. Stay tuned.
We are in the drying room, John. This is really cool. I mean, it's so clean here. I can't believe it. You've got all kinds of, or no, this isn't the drying room. Excuse me. This is the
extraction room.
Extraction room. This is a clue.
This is some beautiful shatter right there. It makes my mouth water just looking at it. Look at that color. Super
Perfect.
clean. That's going to be great for dabbing.
And then you've got another one, and you can just fill this whole thing up. It's nice stainless steel wax.
Yeah, we got some nice butter right there. Good color to that. That'll be a good one to smoke, I'm sure.
Here's another one here.
That one didn't come out so good. We'll probably distill that one since the color's a little darker.
Okay, why would the color be darker?
You know, sometimes it can be older trim. Maybe it sat around for a little bit longer than we were expecting, or you know, the plant could have been
so it could be oxidized?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then here's like a little...
Yep, that one just came out. That one's getting ready to either get whipped or be put into the to the back oven to make shatter. So we'll make butter shatter in here.
Perfect.
Let me show you what we got here. This is our Class 1 Division 1 enclosure. This is basically where we are required to do our hydrocarbon extractions. And the reason this is built like this is because there's a negative pressure in here. There is nothing that can cause a spark that's inside of here. So the pump right there, even the lights and everything are all completely separated from the unit. So if there is a gas leak, there's no chance of explosion, and all of the air is always being evacuated out of here. The pump is pneumatically driven, so there's no electricity that goes to that. You can notice there's no outlets or anything in here. In fact, even the scale that we use in here to measure the weight of the tanks is made for explosion-proof rooms, so that any sparks that are inside there are completely sealed and internal. And basically, we use the ETS machine. You stuff it with those socks down there that are down in the corner.
Okay,
and
so you fill those up with cannabis?
Yep, fill those up with trim material, put it into the column, and you take your tank.
How much does the column hold?
The column holds about 1,000 grams.
Okay.
And we usually get right around a 20% yield, so we're getting about 200 grams per run.
Oh, wow, that's very good.
6 to 8 runs per day.
Okay.
So we're pumping out a lot of concentrates right now. It's a big part of our revenue stream at the shops.
You know, I'll tell you, I love this room. I know it's expensive and all that stuff, but I'll tell you, I know a bunch of people have been blown up.
Yeah, you're not going to get blown up in this thing.
They don't have any eyebrows, their beard's gone, you know. not have any hair on their arms,
And if you
a
look
couple
right-
of guys are disfigured.
If you look right behind you here, you can see this is our gas monitor. This is going to alarm if it detects a gas leak inside the booth, so that you know to get out of there. And then we also have down here our fire suppression system. If there's ever an issue in there, you pull the string and the whole thing just fills with the chemical fire suppressant.
Man, that's like a James Bond movie in here, isn't it? That's pretty cool. What are these buckets of ice? Are you gonna have a party?
So what we do is when we're reclaiming the gas, to help the pump work a little bit more efficiently, we'll put the ice around the tank so that the gas can turn to liquid a little more easily, and it just speeds up the process a little bit.
Okay, so you can make more runs.
Exactly.
Make more concentrate.
So,
These ovens are huge.
over here we got our back ovens here. These things we usually, when they're loaded, and they'll be loaded at the end of the day because we don't do shatter runs on the weekends because no one's here to check it. But basically they'll hit it with the thermometer, with the laser thermometer. This also digitally reads what we're at. We typically keep it between 100 and 110 degrees inside here. We'll go about 48 hours on the purge so that we make sure we get everything out. We can get it down to less than 10 parts per million. The state limit is 50 parts per million.
Oh, wow.
So we're well below that.
But doesn't that tie your oven up for quite a while for you? That's 2 days and 2 nights.
It does, but we can always open it and put new batches in. They don't all have to be going on the same batch.
Oh, okay.
And then you can see here, this is a little hot plate that we use. We'll actually put the oil into here, and when we're making butter, we kind of just whip it.
Okay,
And then that's how we can purge it with the butter in our hot plate there. And then if we're doing the shatter, we just throw it right in the oven and let it set.
Cool.
Over here we have our rosin press. We've been making really good rosin with this thing.
I love these things.
This is actually a 3-ton press, if I'm not mistaken.
3 tons.
3 tons. These plates will heat up, and it'll squish just real nice. We'll take like these little bags right here, and we'll fill them with keef. These are really fine micron bags.
Okay, keef. What? Could you explain to everybody what keef is?
Sure.
Really?
So the keef is all the crystals and trichomes that come off, and we'll use these screens right here to sift the keef out. And then from that, we'll fill it into these little bags. Bags will go in here, press it, squish out the nice juicy rosin, and we'll make little half-gram pucks of that and send it off to the shops. It's really tasty. Really great solventless way to extract.
Oh, that's really quick too. I mean, you can harvest the plant, and 30 minutes later, you've got something you can sell.
Exactly.
That's good.
So this is cool, and we're even thinking about maybe bringing this up to the shop and fresh pressing buds for people.
Oh, that'd be
if
great.
they want to get their bud pressed right on site.
Sure, like wheatgrass or something.
Exactly.
Just get a little shot of wheatgrass.
Fresher the better.
It's like custom service. Now, this is hot too. This gets hot, right?
Yeah, these plates get hot. You can dial it up to whatever temperature setting you want, and then squish it out.
Pretty darn cool.
Yep.
Pretty darn cool. And here's all your controls for the safe room in there.
This basically runs. This is part of the fire suppression system right here. And then we also have, you can see there's a negative pressure that's going. It shows you that the air is, there's less pressure inside the booth than there is outside, so there's no chance of any of the gas, if there was a leak, to escape into this room. It's all getting sucked out continuously.
Wow.
And,
that's super cool.
Yep.
Super cool.
This is what the Denver Fire Department has figured out is going to be the safest way for people to be able to perform this kind of extraction indoors, which everybody's heard of the stories of people getting blown up and things like that. It's just
Or burned down the whole. One of my friends, they had a spike come back through. Their electrical spike come back through, started a fire at their installation in San Francisco. What happened was the first fire started in a sealed room. There wasn't enough oxygen. The fire went out. The second time a fire happened, things didn't go so well. The entire warehouse caught on fire. My buddy John jumped out the second story window. He's burned over 52% of his body. And my buddy, the other guy there, he broke his leg when he jumped out the second story. They lost their dogs. I mean, poor dogs are gone. You know, I mean, that's why I like this room, man. I mean, safety is important.
it's a big hassle trying to keep up with all the regulations, but at the end of the day, Denver has not had any serious incidents of fire or explosions or anything that's happened on the license side of things. And I think that's what the building department and the city of Denver really wants to see is people operating in a safe manner.
You bet.
Especially with something so new, and if there's any problems, somebody would be so quick to jump all over it.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, we
safe.
can't.
Sorry.
No, you're in a fishbowl here. You got to pay attention.
Exactly.
Wow. Well,
So-
let's go out here in the next room and see what you got going.
I'll take you over here. This is all of our, where we do all of our packaging. We pre-package all of our buds, and we pre-package all of our concentrates. You can see what's happening here. Michael here is weighing up the butter that we've just made, and he'll kind of break off what he thinks is about a gram and weigh it up, and then we'll put it in these little containers and see how it goes.
I bet he's really good at that.
He's getting pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool.
The man's been doing this a little bit.
All right. So that's what you sell directly through your nursery, or I mean
Through
your
our
dispensaries.
That's right. And then over here, what we're doing is we're picking through all the buds. We do a final check on everything to make sure that we're getting the best looking buds to go into the packages. Essentially, you'll see this is what we're doing. These are 4-gram packs that we do, all branded packaging. And this will all go off to our shops after the proper stickers are applied.
Well, and I noticed there's like paperwork right here. Everything's registered. It's amazing.
Yep.
It's a very good thing.
So over here we have all of our packaged material that, this is kind of what's left over. We will then extract this. This is what didn't make the cut. And then everything else is these nice.
So that's all for bag appeal.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I mean, the idea is we want to have the best presentation that we can have with our buds. These are 10-gram packs that we do. And
Looks great.
yeah, this is
And it's even got, if somebody before would sell me something and they told me where they lived, and they put their name on the package, they wouldn't last long. They'd be out of business pretty fast. That's right. It's just a different world now.
Yep. So we'll have anywhere between 6 and 8 people working in here every day, and a lot of weed to package. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
Wow, and you've got closets full of it. Closets full of it. There's more in here. There's more in the next one. They got more some around the corner. We've got all kinds of
More concentrates. Yep.
Little concentrates. See, everything's labeled here. A label, got your sticker,
Got your tag on it.
your
Yep.
tag, and then the complete history back here. This is amazing. We used to just call that good dough. That was the end of it. Or butter, good butter. The paperwork just blows me away. It's amazing.
A lot of stuff.
Everything's
Keep track
good
of
now.
every schedule. And what we're putting out, we don't want to be in a situation where we have too many people working, and then all of a sudden there's a couple days every week that we don't have work for them, and then they're sitting around like, what am I supposed to do? So scheduling is really important so that we can make sure we're getting enough output, but also having consistent work for everybody as well. Because things kind of ebb and flow a little bit through the system, and we got to make sure we're right in that average sweet spot.
Sure, there's so many more things to think about when you have a big installation like this. Well, let's go through the green door.
Okay, that is Jorge Cervantes. You can find out more at his website, marijuanagrowing.com. I just had a good time hanging out with Jorge down in South America. He and I both were speakers at Expo Mediweed in Medellin, Colombia. I know he's touring the cannabis fields in Colombia right now, so we wish him well. He's got some videos already posted for that. But we're back with Mr. David Rexroad, who is here to talk about Marfan syndrome and the green tongue theory. And Eric, you had some questions. I know you had some similar experiences.
Right. Rex, I was wondering, what kind of symptoms do you have with your Marfans?
Well, right now I'm experiencing some severe lower back pain that I can't swim away, I can't ride a bike away, and doing too much exercise is going to hurt it even further. So that's one of the main things with mine, and it's just a result of being flat-footed and, my condition catching up with me.
Is it progressive?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Quick question for you here. So obviously you can tell that I'm disabled in a wheelchair. What differs you? How do people tell you are? Other than what stigmatas do you get? Do people look at you as a cannabis patient, or are you just what they call the pothead?
Well, you know, I can be seen as the pothead because one look at me, you can judge a book by its cover because I don't look disabled. You know, I do my best to look as good as I possibly can because this hurts. It's a pain that I've suffered with for so long that I've just learned to live with the pain because I refuse to take any of the pills of the pharmaceutical companies. This is how I choose to medicate because this is my life and it is legal. And I'm very grateful to be in this state, and I'm very grateful to have Paul Stanford and Dr. O at the time to recognize my condition as something that qualified. So, you know, like I said, you know, all I suggest for those people out there that, you know, are disabled is to do your best to take that medical grade, and your best way to inhale that is to vaporize. That's all I have to say. I used to smoke it, you know, and I don't anymore. You know, I've smoked that for 20 years plus, and I swear by that Volcano vaporizer. I will let you know right now, that is the highest high you'll ever get. Oh, yeah.
For sure. So I think we have a phone call standing by. Let's see if we can bring that phone call in. Are you there, caller?
Yeah, this is Dale with North Carolina.
Hey, Dale.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
We're doing pretty well. How are you?
I feel great. I mean, it's really changed my life. It's not legal here completely yet, you know, but we're doing what we can, just fighting the fight. I was on lots of medicine from PTSD, from the incident that happened with the police department back down home. Paxil and Xanax.
And so you're able to quit some of those with medical marijuana. What we're hearing there is we've had a phone issue in our studio for some time, and we managed to finally get them to come hook up some phone, but every time you hear one of those little things, that's somebody trying to call through on that phone line. And so it kind of makes you cut out there for a second, Dale. But go. So you were able to use medical marijuana. I know there's a group working in North Carolina to try to get medical marijuana legal. You now have got industrial hemp, but the guy named Perry Parks, a former military veteran, has been advocating in Raleigh, the state capital, for medical marijuana unsuccessfully for some time. Are you familiar with their work there, the North Carolina Cannabis Patients Coalition?
No, I'm not. I deal with my cousin up there in West Virginia. He comes through every couple of weeks, you know.
I see.
He brings me a case of Mountain Dew, and then that's what we call it down here.
Okay. Well, we wish you the best. Check out the North Carolina Cannabis Patient Coalition. A fellow by the name of Perry Parks has been leading the charge, and they're trying to get medical marijuana legal there through the state legislature, you know. I also have a tie to North Carolina in that I went to high school, graduated from high school, and started my college career there at University of North Carolina. But
awesome. Go Tar Heel.
Yeah, and so I lived in Asheville and there in Chapel Hill for a few months before moving to the Great Northwest back in a long time ago, back in 1981. But anyway, we wish you the best of luck. Check out Perry Parks and the North Carolina Cannabis Patients Coalition. They're working to try to change the law there.
All right, and more importantly, I'd just like to say that my biggest question for the federal government and for everybody fighting against this, who in their right mind, and what was Donald Trump, does he really...
Well, you're kind of fading out there, Dale. We can't really hear you too well, but I agree. Who in their right mind would make this stuff illegal? Again, it's all about money, power, and petroleum. Anything you can do with marijuana, anything you can do with petroleum, you can do with hemp seed oil. And if we grew hemp on a small percentage of our land, and not the low THC hemp, that's a subterfuge. makes 1/20th as much seeds and therefore 1/20th as much oil. We need to be able to grow high THC cannabis for seeds, and that can completely replace petroleum. We have a studio audience, and John is ready to ask us a question. Go right ahead, John.
Just real quick, Paul, I just want to know if you know, can you speak to Wyoming? Is there any kind of legislation about the
Not to my knowledge in the state of Wyoming. You know, Wyoming is the least populous state, and it's also a big petroleum producer. And so people like former Vice President Cheney and those guys, they're firmly in control in Wyoming. And so they, I haven't heard anything about their laws changing anytime soon. You know, our friend David Rexroad here has been a victim of the green tongue theory, and we've talked about that a little bit. We have a video that goes into that. We're going to run a little 25-second video clip, and we'll be right back after this video.
San Bernardino County does not endorse medicinal marijuana. How much weed did you smoke tonight? Whatever. Wait, what? Not more than a G. Still got your tongue again? More? Hey, he's still got green on his tongue. So. Weed? Alright, stand up. We're under arrest for possession of hash. Come this way.
So was that kind of the way it happened with you?
Not like that.
I mean, did that guy admit that he smoked marijuana? I couldn't quite make out whether he said he had or hadn't.
Yeah, he said about a G, meaning a gram.
One thing, though, is if you're stopped by the police, you have the right not to answer any questions. So the first thing you should say in a police encounter is, I have to talk to an attorney before I answer any questions. They're supposed to stop asking you questions at that point. And then say, am I free to go, officer? Am I under arrest, officer? Am I free to go? And cooperate with them, obviously. But if you are asked questions by a police officer, the number one thing to say is, I have to talk to an attorney before I answer any questions. And any attorney will tell you, don't answer any questions. They're not your friends. They're not going to help you. They're just trying to hurt you. So don't answer any questions. Say, I have to talk to my attorney. That's one of the few rights we have left here. And so tell us more about how it happened with you, Rex.
Well, the way that it happened with me is it's quite funny, actually, because I wasn't expecting it. I already knew that's why I went to trial for the DUI, because there was no marijuana on my person, there was no marijuana in my vehicle, and I wasn't high. So it was brought up just because of my medical marijuana papers that I provided the officer. That was really none of his business.
But you gave him the papers.
Yes.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have known to even ask about it.
Nope, had no clue.
And you hadn't been using cannabis that night.
No.
But still, you were convicted just because you gave him paperwork.
Yes.
And based on the lies of the officer.
Yes. He didn't even look at my tongue or anything, but I just want to let it be known. I don't need to drop any names. I will say this. To the officer that framed me, I forgive you. But there will come a time when all of your cases will be looked at as of every other officer that continues to do this, because this is unconstitutional. That's exactly why I'm here, because this green tongue is just as rare as Marfan syndrome.
Unless you eat a Jolly Rancher or an apple lollipop or something like that, you know, then you might have a green tongue. Don't eat the Starburst green things or any kind of lime candy, right?
Right, anything green.
So with your Marfan syndrome, how old were you, David, when they told you that you will not live much longer?
It happened when I was 13. At 13, they said that I wouldn't live to be 28. And when that happened, you know, that whole American dream just turned into a nightmare. Because my operation that I needed to have my sternum removed wasn't even covered by any medical insurance, and was actually something that they call an elective surgery, like a boob job.
So your sternum had to be removed under this circumstance. That's pretty serious.
Yes.
That's this whole bones in the middle of your chest, right?
Yes. My chest was so far concaved, I only had 2 inches between my breastplate and my backbone. And all that was going to continue to do was grow even further until it fused with my back. And it had to be done. Yes, and it had to be done.
And you had that done, how old were you when that was done?
I was lucky enough to have it done at the age of 16. And when that happened, it extended my life. It was just more oxygen to the brain. I felt like a brand new being. I can't describe how it felt to be under a vice. And those with Marfans that are even able to watch this show later, if they weren't able to tune in tonight, I'm very grateful that you're even a part of this too. Because
so they would look at a website on that as the Marfan Foundation?
Yes, the Marfan Foundation. You know, I'm going to do the best I can to be the spokesperson for the Marfan Foundation here in Portland. And I just want the people out there to know that if you want to help people like me, it'd be really nice if you donated to the Marfan Foundation so that people like me are able to go to conventions, to talk about the condition to other people that have that same condition.
So, Eric, you had something similar to that happen to you as a youngster.
Yeah, with muscular dystrophy, there's a life expectancy, if you will. A lot of people don't make it past 20, 25. At the age of 9, I was told I wouldn't make it past 16. Well, now I'm 38, living, enjoying life fully.
And you were in that major accident. Just when was that? That was less than a year ago.
That was at the beginning of this year, January or February.
So about 10 months ago.
Yeah, it was.
And so you were driving in a taxi along with your wife. You were riding in a taxi.
Right.
And some car going 100 miles per hour hit the taxi from behind.
Yeah, but
and you were in critical condition
I ended up breaking my back, my T9 and T10. Basically, I did what they called a horrific back bend over the back of my chair and snapped my spine backwards. So I was in rehab for a couple
if it
months.
wasn't for cannabis, you probably would have died.
Most likely, yeah, because my bones are so limber because of the relaxation from the cannabis itself.
Right, and you had major bleeding in your lungs.
I lost about 600 cc's worth of blood.
And most people die at 400 or 500.
Correct,
right?
yeah.
So and you're not a big guy.
No, but I made it. I'm here.
Pretty tall tonight.
Right, yeah, taller than you.
But anyway, I just thought that's interesting. You both told you wouldn't live much longer, and here you are.
All right, and as Rex was just saying, he had his back surgery. You said in 96 or when you were 16?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a back surgery when I was in 95 when I was 15 because I had scoliosis really bad. They said if I wouldn't have uprighted from my scoliosis, I would have punctured my lungs and passed on. So, yeah.
Well, you know, a friend of ours who also used medical marijuana and volunteered on this television show for a long time is the name of Clay Pierce. And Clay went with me to speak at Expo MediWeed in Medellin, Colombia last year. And this year he was going back to Colombia when he was stopped. He really enjoyed Colombia and decided to move there and came to Portland and sold his home and his belongings and was going back when he had an unexpected transit through the El Salvador airport where he was arrested. And so some people in Colombia have put together a little video. We're going to run that here now if it's ready. So our friend Clay Pierce is being held in what's considered the worst prison in the world. According to the British newspaper The Guardian, this prison in El Salvador is the worst prison in the world. And he is forced to sleep on a floor. They took all of his money and say he has no money, even though they took all the money he had on this planet at the time. So find out more at that website, freeclay.org. If you know Clay Pierce, if you can get us a letter or picture or anything you'd like us to take to him, we'd be more than happy. I'm going to go down and visit him in the jail in El Salvador coming up, not this next week, but the week after. So if you can get us some, if you know Clay and you would like to get him a message, just go to that website and there's a contact form there, or you can bring it down to our live television recording next week. I believe that is on the 15th in here. So we're really worried about Clay. He's been held since the 1st of November in a horrible jail in El Salvador. He is a medical marijuana patient. He was legal here in Oregon. He was legal when he landed in Colombia, but at the El Salvador airport, they went through his bag and found a book about growing marijuana and a little bit of marijuana. Just what amounts to $42 worth, according to articles in the El Salvador newspaper. It's starting to get a little bit of publicity. So we're trying to bring in Amnesty International. I know John and Judy, John on the guitar, have been working with them, and we're working with other human rights organizations. So please go to that website, freeclay.org. So we're about out of time. Is there anything you want to point people to, David?
Actually, like I mentioned before, I would just like if you guys would like to help people with Marfans like myself, you can leave donations at the Marfan Foundation. And I'd really appreciate that because the condition's so rare that it is my purpose to create an awareness because we're so rare.
Anything you'd like to say in closing, Eric?
Parents number 4pot.org, Holiday Drive, help out those that need help.
And crrh.org. Mr. John Cornett's going to play a minute or so of music. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Like that.
We did it.
We are many, we are strong. Can so many be so wrong? We're giving in too many lies. Doesn't anybody really care why? Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful?